In a previous video, I talked about hugging and how it's a common area of misunderstanding. People have very different backgrounds as far as hugging, and I basically talked about how it should be kept in the workplace to a minimum between people who know each other well and are not going to have any misunderstandings, and in a limited number of circumstances. I've got an article from Time Magazine called Why Some People Hate Being Hugged According to Science. It mentions some scientific studies and actually a lot of other things as well. It's sort of a survey, including quotes from a professional cuddler. And it does not talk about the employment setting at all, but I think it's a good document to read. It's not very long, and I've actually sent a link to the article along with this video. There are a couple things in here, even though it's not about employment, that very much reinforce some of the things we talk about, and that's in part why I think it's a good article. It does emphasize that people have very different backgrounds, and how you were brought up is going to affect whether you like to be hugged or not, and the importance of being sensitive to that difference. There's actually a study in here, reference, that suggests that those who receive more hugs are somewhat more protected from infection. That's one scientific study. That may be true. Doesn't change my recommendations for the workplace. And then the last piece I want to mention is actually from the Emily Post Institute. Many of you will know Emily Post was an etiquette expert, and this sort of continues under that name. And it's under the subheading, How Huggers Should Interact with People who are Hug Avoidant. And this is very relevant to the workplace, even though it's not about the workplace. And it says, suggest skipping the hug altogether unless you are closely acquainted with someone. Very consistent with advice. The reason is simple. While you might be comfortable with it, not everyone else, even those who might go along with it quietly, are, the Institute wrote in a blog post. And that's really the important point here, is not only are there differences, but somebody who appears to be going along with it may not actually welcome it. And that goes to many different kinds of interactions. The fact that somebody doesn't actively protest doesn't mean they necessarily accept it. And that's the people who are initiating a hug or an off-color joke or anything that might be the subject of a harassment claim or just a feeling that the workplace is inappropriate. Just need to be ultra sensitive to those. And I think this article is good for reinforcing that.